Welcome back to Launchpad on Business Radio, powered by the Wharton School, SiriusXM Channel 111. I'm Carl Ulrich, Vice Dean of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Wharton, where I teach entrepreneurship, innovation, and product design. I'm joined now by Gabriel Heymann, the founder of Smart Beer. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You know, the first thing I want to do is just point our listeners to your website so they can get a sense of your product while they're listening to us. So it's smartbeercompany.com. And if you're someplace safe out there, not in your car, you can pull up a web browser. You can go to smartbeercompany.com to get a sense of Smart Beer. Gabriel, give us the elevator pitch for Smart Beer.
Yeah, so, we've created and now launched regionally throughout New York this innovative new organic craft beer company called Smart Beer.
Mm-hmm.
And Smart Beer is New York's first organic beer company, and we're very proud of that. Our flagship beer, it's premium organic golden ale, and it's all certified organic ingredients, non-GMO, no pesticides, creates a nice, pure, clean, crisp, refreshing craft beer. We brew our organic golden ale with a touch of herbal ingredients with the goal that I set out to create a purer beer more in line with today's active young adult market and really anyone who's aspiring to live a healthier, more active lifestyle, really. We create great tasting and refreshing organic beer for this modern lifestyle.
All right. So in addition to it being organic, well, actually, let me just start with, if I were to sit down and order a beer and your beer and drink it, what would I notice about the taste? Would I notice anything different about the taste?
Yeah, I set out to create a beer, an organic beer, great tasting, like I said, great tasting, refreshing organic beer where people didn't have to compromise taste
Mm-hmm.
and didn't have to compromise price point. There was really an option for them on the shelf where they could choose the beer that they usually drink or make, like we like to say, the smart choice and choose an organic beer that fits their lifestyle that they're living. So, what a lot of people say to me when they taste our beer, wow, it's just a great tasting beer
Mm-hmm.
and it's organic,
Mm-hmm.
and then some people come about it more looking for organic and saying, wow, it's also a great tasting beer. So you can come at it from multiple different angles, which I love.
Yeah. What's not organic about conventional beer? Like, just walk us through the ingredients and what makes it an organic beer.
Yeah, that question comes up to me a lot. We do a lot of tastings in the market now. We're in Whole Foods every week doing in-store tastings, talking
Mm-hmm.
to consumers, and that question comes up to me a lot. And, I like to describe it in a few different ways. One, when we're in Whole Foods, I say it's much like, the organic products in this store. Organic means something these days. It means it's non-GMO, no pesticides were used in the production of that product. So I like to say it's a lot like the organic products that you're shopping for at Whole Foods or, that's on the news. I know new list coming out each week. You should really eat these products or only organic. And then, we have the organic seal, like I said, which is USDA certified organic. So everything from the farming of the ingredients, the organic grains and organic hops, all the way through the brewing process is a certified organic brewing process. So, all over the news as I was developing the company, and more these days, if you Google it, you can Google, ingredients in beer, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll be pretty amazed by what's being reported in what goes into the production of conventional beers. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to start this company. I really wanted to create a beer that really, why I started it. I wanted to create a beer that fit my lifestyle and my friends' lifestyles that we were living these days. Everything from the ingredients, the pure ingredients, all the way through the values and the branding, so that I and my friends and other people could feel comfortable holding a Smart Beer at the bar, representing, letting it be a representation of who they are and the lifestyle that they live.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me push you a little bit on that, because if I were going to my local grocery store, the organic foods are a relatively small segment, relatively small section of the produce aisle. And you don't really want to necessarily just be in the corner and be that special, that exceptional thing. And the name of your product is Smart Beer. And I wonder if you'd had aspirations, or if you still have aspirations, that it's something more than organic. Because what you've really described is it's beer, but it's organic.
Yeah, what I see, in creating the company, I started with an idea 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's been an amazing journey,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some local test market launches, and now we've had our wide scale launch. Each step of the way, only continuing because there was consumer demand
Right.
and excitement for what we're doing. That's the only thing that's kept me going. But along that path too, I've seen organic go from, small corner of an aisle to now almost every single major chain store have a full multiple aisles of organic products.
Okay, well,
and
that's a good answer.
Organic becoming more and more mainstream. And that's where I think organic products, organic farming, my goal, and what I foresee for the future is going to be conventional in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my hope. So, I see organic products growing and growing within the supermarkets because the need for it, the consumer demand for people for that to be normal, organic production,
mm-hmm.
which it should be.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you're saying it's enough. Organic is enough of a benefit that it can be differentiated in the long run.
Yeah. I think it's a huge thing. The organic side, the lifestyle we're offering, also the ingredients that we brew with. It's very differentiated in the market, and then as well as the branding and what we represent and the values. I think it all comes together in a package for what we're offering that's different to consumers.
All right. Well, the beer industry is pretty interesting because on the one hand, it's dominated by a couple of huge players. On the other hand, it's got all these fruit flies, all these little companies down at the bottom, in the micro segmentation. Why is that? And I guess actually, let me just first ask, why is that? Why does it have that structure?
Why does it have the structure of a few at the top and
these behemoths,
many small.
InBev and then all these little companies that seem to be filling the case with interesting but very small brands.
Yeah, what I think is really interesting in the industry right now, when I got in 5 years ago, is craft beer, the craft beer segment, the smaller craft beer market that you're discussing is growing
mm-hmm.
at a very fast rate. Still a small percentage, but growing at a very fast rate, where now the major beer companies have felt it. They've felt the contraction of the beer industry as the craft beer segment grows. So I think that comes from people wanting different tastes, wanting wanting craftier, more localized products, smaller people. I think wanting to know the brewers, know the people behind it. So I think the industry is at an amazing time where the major beer companies are feeling the pressure of the change of smaller, more localized craft brewers. Mm. And it's interesting, I started out my career as a touring musician during the time when the music industry was feeling that same turbulence, when the mainstream music industry sort of got turned upside down by independent music, and I was involved in that. And so when I started getting into the craft beer scene and the beer industry at this exciting time when that turbulence is taking place and changing landscape, it was very familiar to me, this sort of dissonance and polarization between craft, independent, and mainstream and major beer industry. So
yeah, but the analogy is a really interesting one, and part of what gave rise to that structure in the music industry was it got easier and easier and easier to on the production side to create music. And it became, it was digital files, didn't have to even press CDs. Has the same thing happened in the beer industry? Has it gotten easier and easier on the supply side to produce beer?
I think a little bit on the supply side, as the home brewing and the fact that you can grow that way, but also on the distribution side. I think the distribution side has opened up, which has really helped the craft industry grow. Some more distributors, distribution players, and then more accessibility to distributors, and distributors being more and more open to craft beers as the consumer demand grows for like I said, craft and local.
I'm sure there's a huge number of headaches associated with producing beer, and maybe we'll circle back on that in a minute. But I'm guessing that the bigger challenge is distribution. So maybe you could speak a little bit to that. You're a small a craft brewer, and you have aspirations to be a global brand. How do you get going in distribution?
Yeah, I think different companies approach it different ways. We were very fortunate. I don't know exactly why, but I think because of the strength of the brand that we were creating, that we did have major distribution opportunities right from the beginning. So I think it can start in multiple different ways where people can be self-distributing by themselves for a while and gain traction, and then gain attention from some major distributors. But we were very fortunate that we launched with the partnership with various major distributors. So it's been a real benefit for us and a pleasure to be able to work with such pros and have them behind our brand. And when you I do feel very, very fortunate for that.
And when you say distributor, I noticed just looking at your website, it looks like, 40 or 50 stores in the New York areas and a lot of Whole Foods. When you say distributor, is there an intermediary there who is distributing to, say, a Whole Foods, or is that who you mean? Is the end retailer?
No. So those that you see on the website, and that's not fully up to date. We're working to get more and more up to date. We work with. If you go on our Connect page, it lists all of our distributors.
Okay.
Underneath the connection information, and so we work with a network. I think 5 or 6 major distributors right now throughout New York, who have their own sales staff as well. We do sales as well, but they have their own sales and distribution and trucking staff, where they actually deliver the product to the stores.
Okay. So
and also do sales as well. So it's like a team. It's a partnership with them.
How important are bars, and how does that distribution work?
Yeah. So same thing. It goes through our distributors, but I think as I got into the industry, I loved there's some complaints from people about the 3-tier setup to the industry. We've used it to our advantage, and I really love the setup because at each stage,
what are the 3 tiers?
Well, there's the production, there's distribution, and then there's the retail.
I see. Okay.
And so they're separated in the industry, and I think the bars and restaurants are so important because that's where you have the wait staff, that's where you have the bartenders, and I used to bartend as well, so I know how important it is and what influencers they are when when I go into a bar or restaurant and I'm selling smart beer into them. I try to make as many connections as possible with the bar managers, the bar staff, the owners, because in the end, those are the people. We're at a point now. I can't be in touch with every single person personally who's buying smart beer out there, and so a lot of times the direct connection to those to the consumer is the bartender, the waiter, the waitress, the bar manager, and so the bars and restaurants are very important to us to get the word out about our product.
That's where trial would happen.
Exactly.
For a lot of people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's on premise at the bars and restaurants. That's where people can buy one and try smart beer, and then they can go to their waiter, bartender, and say, "Well, where can I get a 6-pack of this?" We get that a lot. A lot of the bars and restaurants, their feedback to us is people are really loving the product. They're asking where can they get a 6-pack so they can take it to one of their parties or wherever. So that's what's been great for us about having Whole Foods behind us, because it's a very recognizable place to be able to say, go to your local Whole Foods and grab smart beer. And now we're expanding our distribution. Now we're in the process of expanding to New York City and throughout Long Island and throughout Whole Foods network. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be expanding to all the Whole Foods in New York City as well.
Awesome. For our listeners, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Launchpad on Business Radio, powered by the Wharton School, SiriusXM Channel 111. I'm Carl Ulrich, Vice Dean of Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Wharton, and I'm speaking with Gabriel Heymann, who's the founder of Smart Beer, and his website is smartbeercompany.com. Gabriel, you probably have gotten this question from, I don't know, potential investors, others looking at this business, which would be around the question of differentiation. What is it that differentiates you, and what is defensible? Because certainly InBev could source grains and hops organically if they chose to. So what is it that gives you competitive advantage in this space?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I spend a lot of time talking to the Smart Beer team and our distributors about that, because, and I think it's inherent in creating any business, and that's what I've become really passionate about in this process, creating Smart Beer, is really sort of the back end, the creation of a business, of a product, of a recognizable brand, and I think that's the goal as a small company coming up, because I think so. To get to your point, I think we're New York's first organic beer company. There can never be another first. That's something. And behind that, we are working to create just an amazing brand. I think our story, no one can duplicate, and that's the advantage of any company out there in any product. Is if it's created with authenticity and truth, and through your life story, your personal life story, the founders or the co-founders of the company, through their life story, no one can duplicate that and that vibe. And I think that's what we're also selling, is that energy, those values associated with our company. And then behind that, we're also, from the beginning, I've been wanting to create a brand, a strong brand, really an iconic brand, a brand that could be an iconic brand. Like you said, a global brand. And if we just keep focusing on that, no one can duplicate that. They can try. They can create their own version. But if we just concentrate on being authentic and who we are, I don't think anybody can duplicate that, because I think that's something special inherent to who a company is. And so that's what I strive to do every day, is just create a unique, differentiated, amazing brand that creates a great product. And then other companies can do their thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, I think it's the right answer, which is that brand can be in this industry a pretty big differentiator. I mean, you think about it, the stuff is being made. I mean, most of the stuff in the grocery store is being made in a few same factories with tweaked recipes. I mean, you look at a bottle of Corona beer. It's an utterly ordinary thing. But because it says Corona on it, it means certain things to people. Yes. And so I think, as much as, I'm an engineer by training, and it sort of annoys me that it works that way, but I got to acknowledge brands are extremely powerful, and especially in lifestyle products like beer. So I think that is probably the right answer, which is the way you build differentiation is you build an association, positive association around brand, and then there's only one Smart Beer.
That's right. That's right. And then it's everything from the branding, but all the way through the brand values, the brand culture. As we build out our team, I talk about that all the time. The people we recruit and the people we bring in, it creates something very unique and special that consumers can feel, even if it's on a subconscious level. They feel that, and that's the differentiation between brands that maybe you can't see, is company culture, values. But people are really attracted to that, and people are really attracted to these days, and people are really attracted to the underdog story and the small company coming up. And I think that's what I love being a part of in creating this brand and Smart Beer and this product.
Yeah, I was just today preparing a lecture about public relations and getting media attention for startups. And one of the key points I emphasized was exactly what you just said, which is you need to find your own story as an entrepreneur, and it has to be authentic.
Definitely.
And if you can just tell that story, it's often quite interesting to the public. Yeah.
I totally agree. And especially these days, I think it's even that much more powerful, which is funny to say, because I think authenticity and truth has been a universal topic for forever. But right. I think now means more than everything, because everyone's really sick of the traditional top-down marketing approach. People turn off. People don't listen to it. It doesn't make its way through. So now more than ever, it's grassroots, it's word of mouth, and it's a story, and it's a truthful story. So I talk about that a lot too, is that we didn't create a marketing concept and then try to create a product around that. We really created the product around, like you said, personal life story, and feeling a need for ourselves, and then wanting to share that with people, hoping that it would fill a need for other people, which is what we're seeing. And I think that's what people respond to these days. And like we were just talking about in the previous conversation, like that can't be created without it being true. So I think that's where new small companies, that's where you're seeing entrepreneurship being so popular these days, is because it can be done out of your own life story, out of your own experience, sharing with people.
Yeah. Okay, I want to just change the subject a little bit. We just have a couple minutes left, but I want you to talk a little bit about the money, about financing. You alluded to having a career as a musician. I'm guessing that you didn't amass a huge fortune as a result of being a musician, that you then invested in your beer empire. So talk a little bit about what kind of money it takes to start a beer company and where it comes from.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think everybody's story is different. I think it starts with a few things. It all starts with an idea and with passion. And behind those things, because I get asked these questions a lot, behind those things you can really make anything happen. A great idea and passion for it. And so that's what I started out with. And then, each step I took it real slow, starting 5 years ago. And each step of the way, at first, it was really just myself, putting any resources I could put into it, family and friends. So each step of the way, each step I took, gathering what I needed to get to the next step and to the next step. And then over time, building the product, building a prototype, building a story, and building a lot of great experts around me with a team. And then once we got it to a point of being, market tested, and then we really wanted to get it turnkey and before bringing in outside investors. And then once we reached that point after our test market launch and a lot of excitement and sell-through, that's when we opened it up for outside investors to be able to take it to the next level and take it to market.
And this kind of investment is typically suitable for what kind of investor? Is it an angel typically who would invest in this kind of business?
Earlier stage, yeah. At the people that we've worked with to date, yes, angel or private equity or private investors.
All right. Well, it's an awesome story and it's super interesting. And we're just about out of time, so I'm going to just thank you so much for taking the time and encourage our listeners to check out Smart Beer.
Yeah, definitely. Check out Smart Beer, like we talked about, New York's first organic beer company. And, we're expanding into stores throughout the region, so definitely look for us.
All right. Thanks so much, Gabriel.
Thanks for your time.